You're seeing this story first on 4. News 4 has the emails. The Flight 3407 attorneys are calling the smoking gun in their case against Colgan Air. Senior correspondent Rich Newberg reports the Colgan emails indicate the airline knew the pilot was not qualified for that cockpit.
In the months before the crash of Flight 3407 in Clarence, which claimed 50 lives, including a pregnant woman, Colgan Air was expanding its air routes and moving to bigger planes, according to attorneys for victims' families.
Colgan was struggling financially. Colgan was undertaking a new program with new planes, these Q400 planes, 15 of them. And at the time, Colgan was desperately looking for pilots to fly these planes.
Internal emails from Colgan Air's top management mention Renslow as a possible candidate to fly the Q400. You might want to check the training records. There is something in the back of my mind on Renslow, says Dot Chaplin. Colgan's chief pilot, Bill Honan, says, yes, you are correct. Renslow had a problem upgrading. Harry Mitchell, Colgan's vice president of operations, says anyone that does not meet the MINS, minimum requirements, and had problems in training before is not ready to tackle the Q. Bill Honan says he is already off the list. Harry Mitchell, great, thanks. A month later, say attorneys, Renslow was flying the aircraft.
These emails, in our judgment, prove that Colgan sacrificed safety for profits.
An attorney for Colgan Air told me Captain Renslow had passed the Q400 test and would had to have passed in order to have flown the aircraft that day. He would not comment further. But Marilyn Kausner, whose 24-year-old daughter Ellie died in the crash, says this renews her heartache because she believes the crash was preventable.
The airlines knew they had unqualified pilots. They put them in the air anyway. The consequences were deadly. And it's such a callousness towards human life.
Colgan had been fighting the public release of the emails until today. Victims' families have told me they wanted them released to help prevent this type of accident from ever happening again. Attorney Hugh Russ told me the families believe this is the smoking gun. Reporting live, Rich Newberg, News 4 at 6.
Federal investigators are now ordering Colgan Air to turn over internal emails that the families of Flight 3407 call the smoking gun in their case against the airline. Senior correspondent Rich Newberg was first to show us copies of those emails last month. Rich?
These are emails that cast doubt on the qualifications of the pilot who crashed the plane in Clarence. The National Transportation Safety Board never received them.
As far as the family members go, we feel that Colgan hid this information.
It is information leading up to the crash of Flight 3407 that was not handed over to federal accident investigators by Colgan Air's parent company, Pinnacle Air. Emails by Pinnacle's top managers, whose content was first reported by News 4.
These emails prove that Colgan was aware that Marvin Renslow was not qualified to fly the Q400 plane.
Emails obtained by attorneys for families of crash victims that seem to contradict what Pinnacle's former vice president of operations told the National Transportation Safety Board during its crash investigation.
All I can say is Captain Renslow was fully qualified to captain the aircraft.
But Colgan knew, according to the emails, that Renslow had a history of training problems and had initially been taken off the list of pilots eligible to fly the new Q400. That's the aircraft he was piloting when it crashed 6 months after that email exchange.
I don't know how anybody could take anything that Colgan produces as truth at this point.
A Colgan spokesman tells me the company will comply with the National Transportation Safety Board's request for the emails, and it remains confident that it was in full compliance with FAA training regulations. The NTSB blamed the crash on pilot error. And now, almost 3 years later, Western New York lawmakers in Washington are calling for U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder to investigate.
We don't have a federal investigation into a plane crash and withhold relevant emails. That's not right. We want to find out if there's any charges that need to be brought.
And it's a possibility if someone deliberately withheld information from this kind of investigation that there might be a criminal violation.
The NTSB is now requiring Colgan Air to provide any and all information on Captain Renslow's training and qualifications that may have been withheld. You can learn more about the latest development here on our website, WIVB.com. Reporting live, Rich Newberg, News 4 at 11.
And a former insider talks to News 4 and potentially loads more ammunition for the so-called smoking gun in the case of Flight 3407. Colgan Air has come under fire since the 2009 tragedy in Clarence Center. And tonight, a former employee has come forward.
She says she wouldn't set foot on a plane operated by Colgan Air. News 4 senior correspondent Rich Newberg has the latest in our ongoing investigation. Rich?
Gina Ryder scheduled crews for Colgan Air at the time Flight 3407 went down in Clarence Center. And tonight, for the first time on television, she tells me how Colgan allegedly ran its operation, sometimes, she says, compromising safety to save money.
The lies need to stop. The deception needs to stop.
Gina Ryder, who is visiting the memorial at Buffalo's Forest Lawn Cemetery, where some of the unidentified remains of the crash victims of Flight 3407 are buried, says Colgan Air should never have allowed that plane to fly from Newark to Buffalo. Conditions were icy, and another plane that night had slid off the runway at another airport. Flight 3407 had already been delayed 2 hours.
If I was on duty that night, I would have argued with dispatch. I wouldn't have let that plane go.
Gina had put flight attendant Matilda Quintero on 3407, so Matilda would have more time off with her boyfriend. The crash has left Gina psychologically scarred, but also angry with Colgan because she says the company would fly pilots who lacked sleep just to cover each leg of a flight itinerary.
Sometimes their flight schedules were changed. Their rest was reduced. It's completely illegal. Just as long as we got it to work in the computer, it was okay.
Gina has joined a Facebook campaign started by 3407 widow Robin Tolsma, a campaign called I Will Never Fly Colgan Air. I will never fly their planes, Gina responded. Robin, who visited her late husband Darren's mausoleum at Forest Lawn, also met with Gina and told her she welcomes her support. Gina told her, I'm with you.
And I'm with you. And I always say, I'm going to bring Colgan, I'm coming for you, and I'm bringing hell with me. Because I'm not going to let you do this to another person.
Robin Tolsma says 1,600 people have joined her Facebook campaign during the past 11 days. Colgan Air responded tonight to our story, and this was just in. Given that we have not seen the allegations, says Colgan, we will not comment on them at this time. Reporting live, Rich Newberg, News 4 at 5.
Well, families have lobbied for this change for almost 3 years now. Our senior correspondent, Rich Newberg, continues our team coverage tonight. Rich?
Well, Jackie, I was with the families when they went to Washington last year to fight for reforms, and today they declared victory, but they vowed to keep on fighting.
It is a day to celebrate. No, it won't bring our loved ones back, but we will celebrate and knowing that they did not die in vain.
In 2.5 years, these crash victims' families helped achieve what the government could not do in 2 decades, toughening the rules governing pilot fatigue. Now they want the rules implemented immediately.
I call out on all the CEOs of the airlines. You've known this is coming. Adjust your schedules, get the better rest facilities, your fatigues management systems, and let's do it way before 2 years. Safety delayed is safety denied.
Now the families move on in the fight for other rule changes regarding pilot training and qualifications.
I don't think we'll be taking any rests. I think if anything, we're more energized. We're going to continue to move forward with the other rules.
At the Tolsma home, Christmas preparations without husband and father Darren, who perished in the crash, can be emotionally wrenching. But Robin Tolsma's spirits were lifted by the words of Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood.
These families, with unimaginable heartbreak, turned that into a powerful commitment to save the lives of others.
So this is what I could do for him. And I can make sure that somebody else doesn't have to do this again or go through this.
Robin Tolsma said of today's victory on the fatigue rules, There is no better Christmas gift today or this season. Reporting live, Rich Newberg, News 4 at 5:30.
For the families of Flight 3407, this month's aviation rule change came with a lot of emotions. But in the end, many of them celebrated that their loved ones did not die in vain. Senior correspondent Rich Newberg sat down with some of the families.
For John and Marilyn Kausner and so many of the 3407 families, the holidays without their loved ones are especially difficult, knowing their deaths could have been prevented.
We lost our loved ones because of bad practices, both in training and certainly fatigue. Practices that the pilots and the NTSB have been trying to change for 25 years.
Ellie Kausner would have turned 27 12 days before Christmas, but her young life was cut short by the crash of Flight 3407. But Ellie continues to be the inspiration behind the Kausners' tireless drive to make flying safer for us all.
I'm here because of Ellie. Fully cognizant of the fact that without a doubt, she would be there if one of us was on that plane.
Public hearings such as this are exercises in accountability.
With their loved ones always in mind, the families of Flight 3407, some traveling to Washington more than 40 times, won their first battle to strengthen aviation safety rules. The first victory was in combating fatigue in the cockpit.
This is a big deal today. This is as far as our government has ever gone.
Coming together as a group made all the difference, says Marilyn Kausner.
If John and I had to confront the truth of how our daughter died alone, I think our temptation might have been to withdraw and just be angry.
Jim Neal, who lost his daughter, Jennifer, in the crash, wanted to make sure no families grieved alone. He hugged them and prayed for them constantly, giving them comfort, even while enduring his own pain.
By strangers who smile and nod to us, who come and embrace and hug us. It's something that's hard to explain in words, Rich, but that's our great solace.
Jennifer was carrying a child. This was the last picture taken of her.
6 or 7 hours before her death. And she was displaying a picture of her sonogram baby.
Ernie West had 2 beautiful years with his daughter, Summer, before he lost his life in the crash.
With our daughter being so young, we were looking forward to each Christmas being, wide-eyed and innocent, and actually reliving our youth through her.
Wow. This home video was taken less than 2 months before the crash. 3 Christmases later, the families have reason to believe their efforts will lead to real changes in aviation safety rules and that their loved ones will not have died in vain.
Yeah, that was a nice Christmas surprise. I didn't expect that one. There's still a lot more work to go, but it's nice to actually have, something for once said, okay, these are the rules. This is what we're going to implement.
Many of the families feel the presence of their loved ones as they move forward with their cause. Some believe their loved ones are looking down from a better place with great approval.
Are clapping and smiling and saying, look what you've done, not just for us, but for the whole of the country.